Hey there, history fans! Today we're diving headfirst into a pot of piping hot revolution with the Boston Tea Party. Picture this: Boston Harbor, 1773. A bunch of colonists, dressed as Native Americans, are having a tea party. Sounds civilized, right? Not so much. This wasn't your grandma's afternoon tea with scones and finger sandwiches. This was a full-blown rebellion. A giant go-home Britain. They weren't just dumping tea, they were dumping British rule. And it all started with a simple cuppa. Who knew tea could be so revolutionary? Stay with me as we untangle this naughty historical event. Okay. So what led to this whole tea dumping extravaganza? Let's dive into the backstory. Well, tensions had been brewing between the American colonies and Great Britain for quite some time. It wasn't just a sudden outburst, it was a slow buildup of frustration and resentment. Imagine a teenager, that's the colonies, who just wants a bit more freedom, a bit more say in their own life. They're growing up and want to make their own decisions. And their parent, that's Britain, who keeps reading their diary, setting curfews, and making all the rules without any input from the teenager. It's a classic case of overreach. Britain, strapped for cash after a costly war, wars are expensive, yo, decided to impose taxes on the colonies. They needed to refill their coffers, and the colonies seemed like an easy target. The Stamp Act, the Townshend Acts, all these taxes were making the colonists see red, or should I say red, white, and blue. Each new tax felt like another chain, binding them tighter. They felt like they were being treated like walking wallets, not equal citizens. Every time they turned around, there was a new tax, a new demand for money. And the cherry on top of this tax-flavored cake? The Tea Act of 1773, which gave the British East India Company a monopoly on tea sales in the colonies. It wasn't just about tea, it was about control. The colonists saw right through this. You're taxing us without representation, and now you're controlling our tea too. It was an insult to injury. It was the last straw. Time to brew up some trouble. The colonists had had enough, and they were ready to take a stand no matter the cost. December 16th, 1773. A date that would go down in history. The night was dark and stormy, with the wind howling through the streets of Boston, because history loves a good dramatic setting. The atmosphere was tense, filled with anticipation and a sense of impending action. A group of colonists, led by the likes of Samuel Adams and Paul Revere, yes, that Paul Revere, decided to take matters into their own hands. They were determined to make a bold statement against British tyranny. They disguised themselves as Native Americans, boarded 3 British ships docked in Boston Harbor, and, in a truly epic act of defiance, dumped 342 chests of tea into the water. Whoa, the tea, worth a small fortune, was now floating in the harbor, a symbol of rebellion. The British East India Company was not happy. The Crown was fuming. This act of defiance was a direct challenge to their authority and control. And the colonists? Well, let's just say they were pretty pleased with themselves. They had struck a blow for freedom and self-determination. This wasn't just about tea anymore. It was about standing up for their rights, about sending a message. We will not be pushed around. The Boston Tea Party became a rallying point, a spark that ignited the flames of revolution. The shot heard round the world. Well, almost. Okay, maybe the shot heard round the world is a bit of an exaggeration. That comes later. But it all started with a spark, a moment that ignited the flames of revolution. But the Boston Tea Party was a turning point, a pivotal event that changed everything. It was a slap in the face of British authority, a bold declaration that the colonists were done playing by the rules. They were ready to take a stand, no matter the cost. News of the Tea Party spread like wildfire throughout the colonies and even across the Atlantic to Britain. The message was clear. The colonists were not backing down. It galvanized the colonists, uniting them against a common enemy. They found strength in their shared cause, realizing that together they could challenge the might of the British Empire. It also pushed Britain to take a harder line, leading to even stricter measures like the Intolerable Acts. These acts were meant to punish and control, but they only fueled the fire of rebellion. The stage was set for a showdown. The tension between the colonists and British forces was palpable, a powder keg ready to explode. The tension was thicker than a cup of that British tea, which, let's be honest, was probably pretty bad anyway. The colonists were ready. and the world was about to witness the birth of a new nation. Section 5. Joining Hands for Freedom. The Boston Tea Party wasn't just a bunch of colonists having a temper tantrum over tea. It was a pivotal moment that ignited a firestorm of resistance. It showed the world that the colonists were serious about their grievances, that they were willing to fight for their freedom. Think of it like this. If the colonies were individual players before, the Boston Tea Party turned them into a team, a united front against British rule. They realized that they were stronger together, that their individual struggles were part of a larger fight for independence.